Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, award-winning liquor store 5 years in a row in East Nashville. I am Braden Gall. That is Emma Lingan. Good afternoon, Emma.
Good afternoon. What is that, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row? You've gotten it right? The time of day?
I am significantly better at my job than the entire junior Canadian hockey team.
Wow. What a segue.
Yeah,
well done.
We'll discuss
today.
I got a couple of things I want to ask you. I am by no means connected to the junior world or understand it or pretend to cover it, but I have a few interesting observations that I want to see if you think are interesting, and we'll discuss those a little bit later on. There was a very important line in an ESPN write-up about the junior tournament, which Sweden won, I believe, that I think is very important for Predators fans to note. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. Backup goaltender Justus Annunen has signed a contract extension, so he will be with the team, at least for the foreseeable future, unless he gets Scott Wedgwood into the NHL lead for winning games. So we'll see about that. I think a really good deal for the Preds. We'll discuss that. The midseason report is here because they are exactly 42 games into the season. So I want to ask you, Emma, what has happened that you expected? What are the most unexpected things that you have seen happen? And then maybe we can kind of spin that forward to the second half of the season as well. And, of course, the Preds just wrapped a 7-game road trip where they had a winning record on the road. They are now 13-7 in their last 20 and are just 3 points out of the playoffs. So lots of stuff to discuss. Sinkers Beverages, of course. I am what feels like midway through, but really just like 6 days into dry January. It's going much slower and longer and it's much harder than I expected, but I am here. I am totally sober. Mostly, and I have not had a beverage since New Year's Day. Sinkers Beverages is actually helping me with this because they have mocktails, they have non-alcoholic beer, and they have a THC corner, which I believe still counts as dry January. Emma, if I am drinking THC beverages, which last time I checked is not alcohol, am I still conducting and participating in dry January?
I think so, because you're not doing like totally sober January, right? Like it's just dry January. Yeah. Like it's just no alcohol. I think that's my interpretation of it.
Cali sober.
Yeah, exactly. Cali so I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
Zero medical side effects or negative side effects for the THC beverages. Zero. So if you find the ones with no sugar, then you're even better because a lot of them are loaded with sugar. But you know who's got a ton of options that you could go try and check out and see if they're for you? Sinkers Beverages. Right there in East Nashville, award-winning liquor store 5 years in a row. Also an award-winning beer fridge. If you want to go have a great beer, they got great craft beer options. All kinds of great stuff at Sinkers Beverages, over 40 years. So check them out. Sign up for the in-crowd, search Sinkers on Uber Eats, have them deliver the booze, all that stuff. Great stuff. If you want to get into the comment section, please share the show on Twitter. I know, Emma, you're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. People are on Twitter still, technically. So if you could share the show on Twitter, that would be great. People could see the product and come join us for a conversation. If you're on YouTube, thumbs up, notifications turned on so that you know when we go live and you can join the conversation like P. Houston 87. I don't know why YouTube changed to where we don't see their names anymore. It's really a bummer. Brady Martin, I assume he's talking about, is better at being a power forward net front wing than playmaking center. That was my takeaway from the juniors, LOL. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later on. All right, so since we were last on here, the Nashville Predators won 4-2 on the road against Vegas. They won 4-1. They lost 4-1 on the road to Seattle. They win against Calgary, I think, for like the 9th time this season. Of their 19 wins, 17 of them have come against the Calgary Flames, I believe. And then Tuesday, they get boat raced with a really like floodgates kind of opening in the second period against a very good Edmonton team, Connor McDavid, with a hat trick. UC Saros started the last 3. Justus Annunen was very good in the Vegas game, especially in the third period. They finished their road trip 4-3. So I wanted to get your thoughts just quickly first on how they're playing and sort of how you viewed the road trip in particular.
I just don't think this road trip has taught me anything new about this team that I didn't already know. I mean, it's the story of the season, right? Like they win a game that they have no business winning, against a team like Vegas. And then they get boat raced by Edmonton, or then they beat Calgary. They get boat raced by Seattle. I mean, it's been the story of the season that it's like, okay, this is, I think, this team's ceiling. This is it. Like what we're seeing, this is who they are. And I know we've had this conversation before, but who they are is a very inconsistent hockey team. And who they are is also, I think, a very slow hockey team. Especially against Edmonton, you could really see it. I mean, Nashville looked team that's been on the road for 2 weeks. Like it was not even close. So I just think that if you're seeing, like this is them at their best, I think they're like maybe a 500 hockey team at their very best. And and that means sometimes you're gonna get some really good wins, and then you're gonna get some really bad losses. It just seems like they're kind of a team of extremes here. They're not, it's not last year's disappointment where it was just constant underperforming and constantly coming up short. This year, it's just a different kind of frustration. It's like you can see that they are performing at their best, but their best isn't very good. So I think that, it's just kind of, again, haven't really learned anything new about this team.
I tend to agree. And if the best thing I can say, Logan says, good to see you, Logan. Vegas didn't have Eichel and Marner was playing center. They were also, I think they had lost 6 out of 7 either before that game or after that game. So Predators caught them at the right time. Here's the problem. If the best thing I can say about this current stretch of hockey is that it is not awful to watch, we're in a tough spot. Because that's what it is. Like last year was really hard to watch. It was not fun for fans. It was ugly hockey on both ends. They were injured. The goaltending wasn't good. The defense was bad. The offense couldn't score. Special teams, blah. This year, it's not, at least over the last 20. It was bad to start the first 20 or so games, 22 games, I guess. And this last 20 games has been not terrible. And I think if that's the best we can say, that is a positive step in the right direction, which is fans know that when they pay money to take their kids to go watch the team play, there's a chance they can play well and win the game. That was not the case last year. So that is a major step forward. But I agree, especially when we talk about the underlying metrics, this 13-7 thing doesn't feel sustainable. We've talked about it on and on and on. If you look at UC Saros, in the last 5 games, he's 2-3. He's given up 18 goals. 6 of those, of course, were to Edmonton on Tuesday night. .871 save percentage, kind of reverting back to his numbers that are almost identical to last year. They've given up 8 goals in the first period in the last 4 games since you and I talked last week before New Year's. They gave up 2 to Vegas, 3 to Seattle. Hello. 2 to Calgary, 1 to Edmonton. They did score 5. They scored a bunch against Calgary and Vegas. The special teams are fine. I think the special teams over this stretch, this 20-game stretch, 24% on the power play, that's better. That's a marked improvement. 19% on the penalty kill. Not great, but not bad either. 3.4 goals for, 3.1 against. Better, but not great. I think you're right. Like, I think they are what they are. Now, what's weird is that this stretch has put them just 3 points back of the wild card. And I heard Adam talking about this on It's All Your Fault with Gover. Like, I think it's okay for fans, even though I'm not on board with the tank people, like, oh, we want the number 1 pick. Let's have the worst record in hockey and let's watch awful hockey every single night for the rest of the 42 games. Like last year. I don't like that. It's not fun for people. Certainly not fun to cover. It's better for business for the Preds to be good. But I am concerned that Barry Trotz, if they continue with this, that Barry Trotz will see something that doesn't exist, which is a team that should make a run at it. And that's my concern here, is that because I don't blame people for that. I don't blame Barry Trotz or players or coaches. I don't blame people for looking in the mirror and be like, no, we can do this. Like, they're great athletes. Of course they believe in themselves. I think, and I think Adam used the word cold to describe how Barry Trotz needs to act.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right word. You have to be kind of ruthless here. You can't look at Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and say, guys, I know you're really late in your careers and you've been working really hard for us and we appreciate you, so we're not going to trade Michael Bunting for you, Roman Josi, to give you one last shot at getting your ass kicked by Colorado in the playoffs. That is not the right approach for the organization. And so I am concerned that if they continue down this path and they don't regress to the mean to some degree based on their metrics, that Barry Trotz will get different ideas in his head. And I think that's bad for the future of the organization in theory.
I totally agree. And that's been one of my biggest fears, quite honestly, is that, like you said, on one hand, you can't blame them for thinking that way. But on the other hand, you kind of can because we saw what happened the last time. I mean, this is what Barry Trotz did 2 years ago. And, that 18-game point streak, very impressive, very fun, great entertainment value. But that's not who this team is. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Like what you were saying about, yeah, like, when you go to the rink that there's a chance that you can see this team win. And that's a step forward. It's a step forward, I think, in terms of entertainment value, like for fans, but I don't think it's a meaningful step forward in any way towards this team actually contending. And so I think that, when you, again, going back to the original point here, I think looking at Barry Trotz, I think, at his core, he is a coach. And if he sees that they are just this close, if they're close enough to the point where it's like, hey, there's a chance we could make a run at it, that is going to be enough to make him keep all of those expiring contracts and not sell at the deadline. Like, again, I'm not saying that he needs to go scorched earth and sell,
Right.
Philip Forsberg for peanuts. I'm not saying that, but I think that if it's Michael Bunting or Eric Holla or whoever, like, I think those are the guys he needs to sell. I still don't think something tells me he's not getting rid of Smith or McCarron. I feel that in my gut, but
you have not budged off that take at all.
I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm, my fear is that he's going to extend that same logic to Bunting and Holla, and anyone else who has who has any sort of desirability on the trade market. Which again,
don't love that. Don't love that idea.
Yeah.
So here, I think to your point, the difference between a general manager and the coach and player is exactly what you're talking about. That's almost the only difference, is that you have to view things through a different lens. Your job as a general manager is to not act like a coach or a player. The coach and the player have to focus on a daily goal of going out and winning the game and accomplishing your goals. The general manager has to view the entire organization as a cruise ship that takes a long time to turn and change directions, and has to steer that entire ship with everyone in mind. And that's a different job than being a coach and saying, you know what, a couple more wins and we make the playoffs here.
No, 100%. And that's exactly the difference. And I will add to that, I think that even if Barry Trotz, like on a conceptual level, I think he gets that. But, to play devil's advocate here, I think if he's thinking this is the cruise ship and I have to steer it, 5 years into the future, I think he's looking at all the pieces he's drafted and thinking, oh, this is it. This is, like we're so good. Like we just got to wait for these guys to be ready. And so right now, who cares if we keep Michael Bunting? Because like when Cameron Reed gets here, then we're going to be off to the races. So again, I'm not saying for sure that's how he sees it, but I do think that there's a tendency to kind of overvalue the pieces that you do already have.
To continue the analogy, are the prospects the lifeboats in this cruise ship analogy?
Then it would be a sinking cruise ship.
Well, all I have in my head now is like the Widespread Panic song, Don't Tell the Band, which is all about the band on the Titanic playing music until the ship goes underneath. And I'm just like, why is that the image in my head, is the band continuing to play music while everyone dies? It's not what I should be thinking.
I mean, is it a cruise ship or is it the Titanic? Like, it's just,
giant
analogies there.
The analogy is if you're driving a speedboat, which is the coach and the player, you can move quick. You can change directions. You're agile. You're fast. Cruise ships are big, massive things that take a long time to turn, and you should be managing such things the way they are, which is I have to run the organization the way the organization needs to be run, which is with long-term thinking, with a vision of the future, with a plan for more than this year or this month. The coach's job is to focus on this game. The player's job is to focus on this shift. So it's like a jet ski and then like a speedboat and then a cruise ship, if we're really going to dive into the analogy. Brad says, hope last night shows how far they are away. That, of course, talking about the 6-2 loss. Congratulations, by the way, to Steven Stamkos for goal number 600. That's pretty cool. Haula, game number 800, and scores 2 goals in the first period. But even in this little 4-game stretch since our last conversation, Emma, yes, Annunen played great in the third period. They beat Vegas. Vegas not playing well. We talked about the injuries. Still, great win over a playoff team. They get destroyed by a bad Seattle team. They need a goal with less than 30 seconds left. And frankly, what was a very entertaining hockey game. Like, tie game at 1, tie game at 2, tie game at 3, game winner with 30 seconds. That's entertaining. But that's a terrible Calgary team that you needed a goal from a defenseman with 27 seconds left to win, and then you get boat raced by Edmonton. So this last 4 even was not. It's still there should be signs for smart hockey people to look at these last 4 and go, yeah, I just don't know. I think if the expiring contracts, with the exception of maybe McCarron and maybe Cole Smith, I think it would be malpractice if the expiring contracts are kept past the trade deadline. Mostly thinking of Haula and Bunting, especially because they're playing good hockey. They're creating offense. They're good two-way players. Like I
mean, that's how you have to look at it if you're Barry Trotz. Haula scores 2 goals. It's not, oh, well, maybe we should keep him because we're close to the wild card spot. It's, oh, he just upped his trade value. That's how you need to look at it. And I think that's how we look at it. But like you said, you've got to be when you're in the GM's chair, you've got to be a little cold. And that is something that Barry Trotz has openly admitted to in the past, not with this topic specifically, but just kind of in general. He's talked about that's the biggest difference between coaching and being a GM, and that he has had a hard time with that transition because he's used to being in the room and talking to guys every day, having those personal relationships, and he misses having that. And in a way, I think it was when they did that thing for the global series on NHL.com when he sat down with Kyle Dubas and they had coffee together. And I think it was during that he said, that's the part that he misses is the personal relationships. I almost had a thought where I'm like, maybe it's a good thing that you don't get too close to those guys, Barry, because I think that's going to cloud your judgment a little bit. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that he seems very concerned with his image, maybe not image isn't the right word, but his reputation with the players, his reputation among the players, I think is very important to him.
Did David Poile go into the locker room and allow the photography to take place? This is totally just hitting me. I feel like Barry Trotz is photographed or videoed in the locker room way more than David Poile was. And maybe it's not. Maybe they're in there the same amount of time. I don't have any idea, actually. But
I don't know. I think part of it is that David didn't love the spotlight. David didn't love being on camera. That's just a personality thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think that.
Just curious. I mean, I feel like I've seen him in the locker room a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Late to the show, Brad said, any news on Martin's injury? We'll get to that in a little bit. Houston says, wasn't too bad, no surgery. He'll be out a few weeks. We'll get to, there's another line in there that's important. Does this mean the top spot in the lottery is Kate Winslet? I don't think so. I mean, she was good in that movie, but I don't think so. Logan says, we need to get guaranteed NHL top line players, and we don't have a solid top 6 forward group or top 4 decor in the system. I don't know about that yet. I think there are some pieces that could develop into that. Matthew Wood not playing the last couple of games is not a positive development, but
I think that's kind of the point is you need guaranteed. And now you're saying we don't have anyone guaranteed. It's well, maybe if everything goes well.
No, I get that. I get that. How many games? I like this game. How many games versus playoff teams do the Predators currently have wins over?
Well, they got Vegas. So that's one more. Mm-hmm. So what is it? 3, 4?
It was 3. Vegas would make it 4. However, the Pittsburgh Penguins are now in the playoffs. And they do have a win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. And they added the win over Minnesota. So they now have 6 wins over teams in the playoffs out of their 19. Moving on up, Emma.
Still not great. Less than a third of your wins are against playoff teams.
Yeah. So, again, I think the underlying metrics say that they're not as good as they've been in this stretch. 13-7. We know that they can be bad, which we've seen all of last year and the beginning of this year. I think
last night.
I think, and honestly, the underlying metrics of the first 22 games tell you that they aren't as bad as those numbers, as their output and their productivity in those 22 games. So they're just in the middle, as my dog agrees.
Yeah,
they're just in the middle. They're not.
Really.
They're about a 500 hockey team, and that's probably where they're going to be the rest of the season. So
yeah. I mean, I've always said this, even going back to last year, it was like, okay, well, they're not this bad. Like, clearly this team is not this bad. And then when you see them, overperform and, beat Minnesota and beat Vegas and all that, it's like, okay, well, they're not this good. And that's always kind of been the truth, is they're somewhere right in the middle. The problem is they haven't always put on middling performances. It's like their individual performances in individual games have always either been, they've tended to the extreme. It's either been really good or really bad. And so I think that it's one of those things where, it's easy maybe to get swayed to look at what's right in front of you and be like, well, hey, that was pretty good. I think this team might have turned a corner. And it's like, well, no, because they do this all the time. They'll do one really good game and then they have a really bad game. And that's just how they've been all year. So even though those individual games tend to the extremes a lot, the overall, the average, the mean is like, this is a very average hockey team.
Anything else from these 4 games? They went 11-7 last night. I don't know if that helped at all. I think that's about it. Congrats to Stamkos for getting to 600. Sinkers Beverages, before we move on and talk Justus Annunen and do some midseason projections and reevaluations of our own predictions, and then a quick conversation about junior hockey. Sinkers Beverages, search Uber Eats and have them deliver the booze directly to your house. You got playoff football on Thursday night, playoff football on Friday night, playoff football on Saturday night, playoff football on Sunday night, and playoff football on Monday night. It is a glorious, glorious week. And by the way, my gold sweatshirt I'm wearing, that if you are watching on the internet, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, please come on over and watch. It is not a Nashville Predators sweatshirt, and it is not a Pittsburgh Steelers or anything in Pittsburgh, all the Pittsburgh teams, none of those teams sweatshirt either. You want to guess what it is?
Well, I saw what it was.
Oh, you know.
So I don't want to cheat. But
there we go. There we go. Christmas gift from the folks, a Barca sweatshirt, as I went to my first European soccer match in October.
Oh,
at Barcelona. So now I'm a lifelong diehard. Yeah. They're actually playing right now as we speak in the Champions League, I believe. Okay.
This is now a soccer podcast.
Soccer and football playoff podcast while doing an ad for Sinkers Beverages, 5-time liquor store of the year. Look, there are lots of really great things to watch on TV. I suppose if you want to talk about the Islanders and the Blackhawks and the Capitals over the weekend, you could also watch those things. Probably good tickets still available for Washington on Sunday. You can go to any of those games. If you're watching any of this stuff over the weekend, please make sure you have the booze delivered directly to your house. So just search Uber Eats for Sinkers Beverages, and they can deliver champagne, wine, beer, liquor, whatever you want. Mocktails for you guys doing dry January with me, THC. You got non-alcoholic beer, which is so much better today than it has been in any other time in like human history. It's the best non-alcoholic beer you can find today. You can get a lot of that stuff at Sinkers Beverages as well. Sign up for the in-crowd. They'll give you really cool access to like some customer appreciation stuff. So go check out Sinkers Beverages. You guys know the deal. Great local company who loves the Preds, and so you should love them back. All right, Justus Annunen, 25 years old. He's played 35 games in a Nashville Predators sweater, 29 games for Colorado. He had a .902 save percentage and a .281 goals against for Colorado before being traded. He has an .884 save percentage with a .321 goals against. Now, I think there is a difference between playing goalie for Colorado and playing goalie for Nashville over the last 2 years. So I think that's important context.
Just ask Scott Wedgwood.
Yeah, no kidding. His career numbers, .892 save percentage, .303 goals against. In his last 6 games, he's been very good, so he signed the contract at the right time. 13 goals against in his last 6 games. That's about 2 per game with a .912 save percentage. And so playing good hockey, he gets a 2-year extension worth $2.5 million, $125 AAV. What do you make of the decision to bring him back and the cost to do so?
I mean, I kind of I feel like I don't know. I'm kind of I don't want to say indifferent about it. I think I just don't feel really strongly one way or the other. I saw some people feeling very strongly that it was a bad move. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think it's a great move, but I also don't think it's a bad one. I think it's just a move. I think it's something that, or maybe not that it was a bad move, but I guess the kind of general question was, why do it now? Why are you signing this extension now? Why not wait? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, I get it. But again, I think if this team has bigger fish to fry, like, I don't think we should be splitting hairs over signing the backup goaltender to a very reasonable deal. Like, I don't know. I just think it's fine. He's fine. He's had, again, as is the case with the rest of the team, Annunen has had some very good, very strong performances this year, and he's had some really bad ones. And, people like to latch on to the bad ones because, it fits a narrative. But honestly, I think he is what he is. He's a backup goalie, and, he's fine. Like, I don't know. I feel like people always feel like they need to have a strong opinion about every move that happens. And it's like, no, sometimes you don't. Like, it's a move. It's a little tidy bit of business to shore up something for the next couple years. And it's just maintenance, basically.
He's not underachieving. He's not overachieving. He's just achieving. And I think that's basically where so first of all, I don't think you can be outraged if you let him walk, and I don't think you can be outraged if you re-sign him. So I don't think this is one of those areas where we should be talking about this too long.
Right.
I think having your backup goaltender, who is of the same country, of your starting goaltender, who is a different type of player, so that you can kind of match up with different types of offenses if you want, who has got some talent and some upside, but is clearly not developed it all the way yet, and is showing you some moments of decent hockey, and he costs you very little. I think to have your goaltending situation not be a thing you have to think about for 2 more years, I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine. It's not going to win you the cup. It's not going to cost you the cup. So therefore, it's all good. And if Annunen is really, really good by the end of this contract, then you can you give yourself options, right? You give yourself an option to trade him. You give yourself an option to talk about Saros. You just give yourself options to maybe start Annunen more, to re-sign him for if he develops into what you want him to be, then you've got some flexibility at the end of the deal.
I would also just like to point out how much of the narrative last year was Saros is washed, Saros is cooked, and let Annunen be the starter. And then now Annunen has had a couple bad games this year, and now everyone hates him and is mad that they re-sign it. It's like, come on, like, everybody take a minute, go touch grass, go take a deep breath. It's a backup goalie signed to a very reasonable backup goalie contract. And like you said, if this is a thing that you don't have to worry about for the next 2 years, great.
And it starts next year, right? Like, his extension is so it's this year and then 2 more years, which means for the next 2 seasons, you will be paying technically, because Saros is at 7.74, and this will be 1.25. You are technically paying less than $9 million a year over the next 2 years for both of your starting goaltenders, which is less than almost all of the top 10 goaltenders individually across the NHL. So context. It's important, especially on a team that may not be competing for anything. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good the backup is. Right now, it doesn't. Now, if they're in the playoffs or they're trading Saros or we're 5 years from now, all that matters. And I know for sure that they love the kid they drafted, Jack Ivankovic. Who's playing Ivan Kovic. Yeah, whatever.
I did the same thing. I wanted to fancy it up a little bit, but no, it's just Ivan Kovic.
Ivankovic. Yeah. He is a UC Saros clone, and he is the future for them. That is the guy they think can take over eventually, whenever that is, and that is well beyond Justus Annunen's contract. And so you got to get to Ivan Kovic. You got to get to the young players soon. I mean, sorry, not soon, longer down the road.
Well, and that's the thing is not every single player you sign has to be a franchise cornerstone, especially when that's the backup goalie. Like sometimes backup goalies just are what they are, and that's fine. If anything, it should make you feel better as a Predators fan that they're not putting all of their eggs into this basket. Like, oh, let's sign Justus Annunen for 6 more years and just have it on. Like I think and they're not giving him a lot of money. No, it's just.
It is fine. What it is. Yeah, it's fine. All right. So first of all, 19-19-4. I want to start our midseason report here, Emma, with a general I know we've spent a lot of time on this show today and in previous episodes being like, well, they are what they are. And I do think the line I remember using in the preseason, which is I think they're going to be improved over last season. But I think they're going to kind of battle maybe best case scenario around the wild card list. I think we were dead on with analyzing what this team is, which is they're too talented to be as bad as they were last year, but they're not good enough to win anything of note. And that's where we are. They're exactly where we expected them to be to some degree. In fact, I might argue that they're a couple spots higher in the standings due to other teams' poor performance and the general awfulness of the Western Conference beyond the top 6 to 8 teams. Is there anything broadly, because I'm not talking individual player yet, because there are some definite surprising developments, both good and bad, from an individual standpoint. But is there anything that is just you feel like you were completely wrong about with this team when we started guessing and projecting out in the summer?
Not really, honestly. I feel like more of that comes at the individual level, because I think what we had talked about before is that, like you said, last year, they were too good to be as bad as they were last year. And so we talk about regression to the mean, although in this case, it would be like progression to the mean because they were so bad last year. So I was like, I think they're going to be improved, but also like that wasn't exactly a high bar to clear. Right. I think if we're just kind of looking big picture, I think, I mean, I don't know. I think that I don't really have any issues with the moves that they made or didn't make this most recent offseason. Like, I think that you identify that the biggest issue you had was on defense. Like, obviously scoring's an issue too, but if you just look at the roster on paper, you're like, ooh, we need to fix the defense.
And they should be better at scoring, and they are. Yeah.
Yes, but like you look at the roster, it's like, no, this defense is pretty awful. We should fix this. So then you go, you get Nick Perbix, who I think has been a very, very good addition for them. You need to shore up the right side. I think, you go and get Nick Hague. Has he been, the savior on defense? No. But on paper, again, he's big and he's a shutdown defenseman. And that's exactly the profile that you needed on your blue line. So I think that, in terms of the offseason, I think the correct areas were addressed. And I think the defensive play has improved. Those are things that can be fixed. Certain things that can't be fixed are the fact that this team, God, they're slow. Like, I just keep noticing it more and more when I watch. It's like, good Lord, they just... Yeah. I mean, even against a team like Calgary, who I'm not saying that Calgary is a better hockey team, because they're not, but just like individually, the speed and the skating and the, just things like that it's like, wow, the overall pace of play for Nashville is so slow. And that's something that's just been more and more evident to me. And it's like, that's how they get caught, coming out of their own zone so often and just they can't keep up. And I think a lot of that is age. It's the age of the roster. I think guys like, we're not talking about individual performances, but I mean, I think guys like Jonathan Marchessault completely disappearing was not on my bingo card. I mean, I know right now he's injured, but even when he was healthy, that what I didn't expect. I think, I expected Stamkos to take a step forward, and he has. Again, progression to the mean. That's all it is. And, we're kind of seeing, in terms of the forward group, kind of seeing what we, and again, this is nothing new. This is all things that we've known about this team already, but we're seeing what we saw a couple years ago when you had the top forward line of O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Nyquist. All three of those guys had career years, Nyquist being the most surprising of the three. He was not supposed to be a top line winger, and he was like 35 years old. And that's not a guy you expect to have a career year, but he did. That line performed so well. And then there was nothing behind it. There's nothing behind it. And now you're seeing that with this team as well. And I think the sort of X factor in the middle of all of that, no pun intended with factor, but it's Ryan O'Reilly. Yeah. It's whoever plays with Ryan O'Reilly on that top line. Right. So that's why you're seeing Stamkos taking such a big step forward, I think. But then, it's coming at the expense of guys like Marchessault or I think that when you only have one really skilled playmaking center. And again, Ryan O'Reilly will be the first to tell you he's not a 1C, but he's the closest thing they have. Yeah. And so now I think that, when you only have one guy who can even pretend to be a 1C, that's, it's becoming a more glaring issue. So I think that's why they wanted Brady Martin to be ready so much sooner than he was. That's what, and I think the need and the issue has been identified. But I just don't know how they go about fixing it. I don't think it's something like the defense you can more or less fix in one off season. You can't do that with the center depth. So
no, you can't.
Yeah,
I think you're right to say the off-season moves, especially on defense, but in particular across the board, were they accomplished their goals to some degree, or they were as expected, which I think is the right thing, because going to get Erik Haula is not a major move. Signing Nick Perbix is not a major move. Getting rid of Lauzon and Sissons and giving a $5 million per year deal to Nick Hague is a bigger move. But they've all been like as expected, I feel like. In fact, I think Haula has been a little bit better. Perbix might be a little bit better than his $2.5 million contract. So
Perbix is definitely better than his $2.5 million. Right. I just think, so
they're even better, I think, than we maybe expected, some of those offseason moves.
Sure. And look, I know you're in this camp with me too. We're big Colton Sissons apologists, but
9 minutes, by the way, he played against the Predators.
I don't think that this Predators team right now is significantly better with Sissons and Lauzon instead of Hague and Haula.
I agree with you.
I
can't believe I can't believe I agree with you, but I agree with you.
I know. And I don't know that they'd be worse. I just think it's kind of a wash, honestly.
Yeah. But younger and longer term with Hague. I think the big one for me, and this is what I tell Titans fans. So of a really awful Titans season where the rookie quarterback didn't exactly live up to expectations, but was okay, and the coach got fired, and they were one of the worst teams in the league. One of the biggest developments that any team in that situation can have is finding a piece to build around, even if they're not the building block piece, right? And Cedric Gray at middle linebacker for the Titans became a clear starting player for the foreseeable future at a position that's important to the defense, right? And so having that develop over the course of the year, that being a storyline for the Titans, is one of the more important things to talk about. We can sit here and say, okay, Steven Stamkos is on pace for 36 goals, which is actually far better than last year. It'll be one of his better totals in the last 5 or 6 years at his age. And I think that's what you paid him for, was to come in and score 36 goals. I think that's exactly right. That's what you should be getting from Steven Stamkos. 56 points is what he's on pace for. Michael Bunting scoring 22 goals and getting to 50 points. That's great. That's great value for the trade that you made last year. Erik Haula is on pace for 46 points, 14 goals, 32 assists. That's for a 4th-round pick. That's great. It's great value. Nick Blankenburg is a really good development, I think, to some degree. Now, this is both a double-edged sword here. The fact that he has the exact same stat line as your captain, Roman Josi, is a problem. 5 goals, 13 assists, both on pace for 36 points. Obviously, Josi with the injury. Philip Forsberg, 62 points, on pace for 30-goal season. That sounds about right. I mean, you'd want a little bit more from him because you've seen more from him, but it is what it is. But Luke Evangelista, on pace for 12 goals, 50 assists, and 62 points. And to have the same number of points projected forward as Philip Forsberg, no matter how you want to slice it. Hey, Forsberg's not playing on the top line and Evangelista, or, whatever, however you want to explain it. all the context doesn't matter. It is important. But if you're telling me that Luke at the beginning of the season, hey, Luke Evangelista is going to have as many points as Philip Forsberg, and he's going to have 50 assists, I think every single Preds fan would have looked up at the sky and said, thank you. A young player realizing their potential and developing into a starting top 6 forward. That is a permanent thing that could affect this team moving forward. That is a huge development. Now he needs to finish the season. He needs to do it again in the second half. You need to see some more growth at it's all this other stuff. But that is not, I think we all expected Luke Evangelista to have the chance to improve. I don't think we had him leading the team in assists at the midway point and putting up the numbers that he is and generating offense the way he is. I think that's a huge development for the team in a year with not a lot of great developments.
Yeah, it is. And, like you said, he's got to do it again in the second half. He's got to do it again next year too. That's the other thing, is that I think this fan base had so much when it comes to young forwards. I think this fan base has so much whiplash from the Phil Tomasino years, the Igor Afanasiev, the Eli Tolvanen, Tommy Novak, Cody Glass, whatever. I mean, Glass wasn't.
Look at Matthew Wood's season this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think right. And I think that fans have so much whiplash and so much PTSD even from those young forwards not, in their mind, given good enough opportunities. Although, to take a quick detour on this, so many Predators fans, I think, complain about ice time for young players, and they're never given an opportunity. Blah blah blah. Okay, fine. It's not in itself not a bad. It's not a bad argument, but then you look at those players. Like, again, we've talked about this before. Phil Tomasino is playing in the AHL right now.
Yeah, none of those players are any good.
Yeah. Like Tolvanen has kind of tapered off. He's not that good anymore. Afanasiev isn't good. I mean, all of these guys who we, Predators fans swore up and down were the future, and the Preds development system screwed them over. Clearly, that's not the case from what we're seeing them go on and, do elsewhere. So anyway, to get back to my original point,
I don't think the average fan complaining about that, or maybe the diehard who knows this stuff, I don't think they're talking about the Glass Tomasino Afanasiev group. I think they're talking more like Tolvanen's is kind of his own situation, right?
Why though?
But because it wasn't about playing time. It wasn't about 9 minutes on the fourth line versus 15 minutes on the second line. It was they just waived him for no reason.
He was just being healthy scratched. He wasn't being played at all. True.
So
but Tomasino, oh my God.
And that wasn't Brunette though, right? That was Hines.
Well, it was Poyle. The coach doesn't decide who gets waived and who.
But I'm talking about playing time. It wasn't Brunette not playing him.
Yes,
I think it's different for I think Matthew Wood is the one that we can point to and say, is he being put in the right position and given the right opportunities? And I think the fact that they're playing well and that he's going to hit some rookie lulls, which he has done, I'm not really that upset about how they're kind of managing some of those pieces. Reed Schaefer's playing well, so you give him some more time.
I'm not mad about it. I think it's about how players respond to that. And I think to get back to the point of Evangelista, he is a player who historically, because we have a track record of this, responds very well when he is I don't even want to say punish, because it's not a punishment, but when he would go through lulls and he would get healthy scratch, he would get benched, he would respond by coming back and, putting in the work and come back playing some of his best hockey. And so you want to see how Matt Wood is going to handle that too. And I think with Evangelista, it's great that you're seeing this. But again, I bring up the whole Tomasino thing because I think that what I would worry is that because Tomasino had one very good season. It was his rookie season. Now this is different. It's not exactly apples to apples here.
Didn't he have 30 points?
Something like that. It was 20. I don't know. Anyway, the point is just exploded onto the scene as a rookie, probably earlier than he should have because of COVID and everything that was going on at the time. And so everyone held him to such a high standard that he was never able to meet again. And so, again, with Evangelista, I'm not concerned that that's going to happen necessarily because we have more of a body of work from him. This isn't his rookie season. We've seen more of what he can do, but I think that this is a great development. I totally agree with you. And I think it's the best case scenario, especially after all the contract drama that happened over the summer. I think this is the best scenario, not just for the team, but for the player himself. He's proving himself. And again, I think that speaks to the value of, say, a Ryan O'Reilly and people being, having feelings about Barry Trotz not wanting to trade Ryan O'Reilly because he's so valuable. Yeah, he is valuable. You know who's the first guy on and last guy off with Ryan O'Reilly every single freaking practice? It's Luke Evangelista.
You're contractually obligated every episode to tell us that story.
But I'm
you're right. You're right.
I think that there's a lot to that.
For a 23-year-old to almost double his career high in points, to have at the halfway mark a career high in assists already, to be playing top line minutes, to be generating offense the way he is at 23 years old. To Logan's question from 30 minutes ago, we need guaranteed NHL top 6 wingers. If we started the season at the start of the season, how many guaranteed top 6 wingers? Forwards, I should say, did the Nashville Predators have? Like, I'm not going to count O'Reilly and Stamkos. Like, they are top 6 forwards, but in the future, they're not, right? It's safe to say that Philip Forsberg was the only guaranteed top 6 forward on the team at the start of the year. Is that fair?
Why are you not counting Stamkos in this?
Because he's here for 2 more years and then he's gone, right? Like, he's
okay.
Like, he's not a part of the future. But yes, Stamkos and O'Reilly, no part of their career were they not viewed as top 6 forwards. They are clearly top 6 forwards here, but they are not part of the future. Whereas Forsberg, I think, is a little bit more a part of the future, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
After O'Reilly's not long for the team either traded at this deadline or in the offseason or next deadline, right? Or he's walking at the end of next year. So 1.5 more seasons for him, 2.5 more seasons for Stamkos. That's it. Forsberg's here for the foreseeable future. If I told you how many more guaranteed top 6 forwards do they have, you might say 0. They haven't found them yet. Maybe they're in farm system, maybe not. I think you can add one now. I think that's a huge development for the organization, that whether he's on the top line because they're not good enough or he's on the second line because they are good enough, Luke Evangelista is a top 6 winger now, top 6 forward. And that is I think it's okay to celebrate those small wins if you're a fan.
Well, and that's, again, to your point with this being, him playing on the top line because this team isn't good enough. That's still a good opportunity for him, because if this was a contending team, he'd be on the second line and that would be a good spot for him. And that's fine. But, it's still good opportunity because he's not getting these kinds of minutes. He's not getting this kind of opportunity if this is a playoff team right now. He's still going to be buried farther down in the lineup. So, it's short term versus long term. I think you got to look at it. But again, you'd want to see more, in terms of the overall forward development.
Yeah, no question. But 1 is better than 0. Brandon said scouting and development has been the Achilles heel of this franchise since 2016. So too has been the returns and overall asset management. I'm willing to see what they do at the deadline, because I think the Shen trade from last year, I think, has turned out to be a good trade. I think the Nyquist trade has been a very good trade. I think trading Ekholm was a very good trade. Trading Jeannot was a very good trade. All of these are Trotz. I know Poyle there was overlap, but Trotz was kind of given the okay on all this stuff too. I think a lot of the trades have been solid. We just talked about how we thought I did not like the Sissons trade at the time. I like it a lot more today. So I don't think the asset management is as bad. We can discuss hiring and not firing Andrew Brunette. We can discuss the draft picks, but right now that's been largely positive from the draft pick standpoint. So I don't know. I think I agree development and scouting is a concern for the organization writ large, especially on offense. I don't know if we can say that about Trotz all the way. I think the Carrier decision, that's a weird one. Dante Fabro, that's a weird one. Like, there's plenty of them that are weird. and that you can criticize. But I think on the whole, I think most of the trades and the draft picks have been largely solid. I think only time will tell if it's all the right thing to do. All right, quickly here, Sinkers Beverages. Emma, I want to discuss the juniors real fast. And I saw a line, Sweden wins the gold medal. Canada plays in the third place game. USA doesn't even make it to the semis. So disappointing for both the USA and Canada in this turnaround or in this tournament. There was a line in an ESPN story about like sort of all of the different things that happened in the tournament. And the one line that stood out to me was Canada wasn't the same after Brady Martin got hurt in the semifinal, or I guess in the final four round. That's a really positive thing to say about your prospect. That Team Canada wasn't the same after your guy got hurt. That's a good thing for other people to be observing about Brady Martin. Just want to point that out. Not good that he got hurt, but
yeah. No, I mean I forget who it was. I want to say it was Bob McKenzie back in the day, I think, who always said that the World Juniors, like obviously it's such a big stage and, it's a major scouting showcase, above all else. And I think that a prospect, I mean, in this case, I think he was talking about draft eligible players for this year, of which there were several, but I think the same, rule still applies here, that a player can't damage his stock at the World Juniors. He can only improve it.
Okay.
And I think that we saw that from Brady Martin. Again, not his draft stock because he's already been drafted, but in terms of just his kind of overall reputation. And, I think that he proved a lot. I mean, he played really well with Gavin McKenna on the top line. I think that he played like a power forward, really, and he just has really good leadership. And it was a lot of intangible stuff, which I know that Predators fans don't want to hear because they're like, we don't care about his intangibles. But I do think that you saw that he was incredibly skilled. And, you got to see a little bit of everything in his game, not exactly what you saw when he was here in Nashville, because that was, it was too early for him.
I mean,
so I think it was good.
He shouldn't even be the full player he's supposed to be for like 3 or 4 more years. Like 22.
Right. So,
we're talking about Luke Evangelista finally showing up at 23. Like Brady Martin's 18 years old. So
I saw that too. About, I saw a few different people saying that Canada was not the same after he got injured. The good news is, as we mentioned earlier, injury from the GM of his junior team said that the injury is not that serious. It's not going to need surgery. He'll probably just miss a couple weeks. So that's good. It's positive for him. But I think that, he definitely was a guy who, I think took a step forward at this tournament.
What I find really interesting is sort of the larger conversation around both USA hockey and Canada youth hockey is these longer conversations about the development ranks and sort of the questions that are arising about strategy in both countries around youth hockey. And I find that really interesting. In soccer, Nashville SC is making a very concerted and investing money in taking care of their farm area, which is weird in soccer because it's geography based, right? You have like if a kid comes out of Chattanooga, well, he's guaranteed to be a Nashville SC player or whatever. So, but they have changed their approach as an organization to how they develop young talent in their footprint, right? And I think on a much larger scale, countrywide, it's really interesting reading the critiques of youth hockey in Canada. What it means, obviously, to the fans and to the country and to the youth and to the kids and everything, that young people are being, so many fewer people are playing hockey at a young age in Canada. And the question is why? And the only answer anyone has, apparently, I don't know, I mean, this is just what I'm reading from experts, is that it's so expensive and that it is so professionalized at such a young age that kids are burning out, parents can't afford it, and that the long-term effect is going to be Canada's not going to be as good at hockey, which is something they definitely don't want to have happen. So I think it's a really interesting observation about the cost of this sport, which I played growing up as a kid. It is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like golf, man. Like it's one of the most expensive sports you can play as a kid. And in Canada, obviously, if you are good enough to reach a certain threshold of talent, you are then put into a professionalized lifestyle pipeline like European soccer players are. And it's very interesting to follow and watch and read about as someone who doesn't know anything about it. Because I'm like, man, you want to know what the effect is? You lose in the third round game where Sweden wins a medal they've never won before, like, or haven't won in a long time or whatever. Like that, it's really interesting to read the commentary around junior hockey in Canada right now.
Well, and to tie it all together with a nice little bow here, in response to all of this, Hockey Canada has appointed a new
czar,
director. I don't know. Yeah, like a czar,
like a czar.
Of hockey. What is it? Junior hockey development. Like he's going to lead a review of junior hockey, men's junior hockey in Canada, and the culture around it, the development process, all this stuff. He's leading this major review, and the person who they have appointed to do that is former Toronto Maple Leafs president Brendan Shanahan, who happens to be second cousins with one Luke Evangelista. There you go.
That was a journey.
Just tying it all together for you.
That was a journey. I thought for sure you'd end up on an HBO sitcom or drama or whatever you were talking about. I thought you were going to end up with heated rivalry at some point.
No,
the conversation.
No, but I brought it all back to Luke.
You did.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
It's all about Pretty Boy Vincenzo, as the play-by-play announcer says on the call professionally. Yes. I don't know. I just find it really interesting. I think we don't do. I have kids that now play sports, and I think Nashville doesn't do enough for youth girls soccer, right? Like there's always these kind of questions, no matter what sport you're playing and no matter where you are. But I found it really interesting to hear hockey fans who are Canadian and saying things like, we have got to address the affordability issue in our sport because this is why the youth, I guess it's applications or something. I don't know what the right term is, but like registrations and playing it, playing in these for these teams and in these leagues is way down. And I never thought I'd read a story about like how interest from young kids in Canada in hockey is like way down. I was like, wow. And it's not about the kids. It's about the costs. And it's all these for-profit tournaments and for-profit arenas and for-profit branding of this and that and the other. It's like, it's so much that we're just like, it's no longer about kids playing a sport. And that's, as a father of two that are doing that, it's very frustrating to read these stories. But I am very interested in it. So I just wanted to mention it. Oh, well. Are you watching Heated Rivalry? Are you watching it?
I'm not. I haven't yet. I genuinely do want to. I just haven't had the time to sit down and actually do it.
Sure.
Well, sorry, I don't have like 15 jobs. I'm trying to find the time here, but I do want to watch it. Maybe that'll get more people into.
It's having a moment. That's for sure.
It is. Maybe not for kids. That actually,
no, definitely not for kids. No, definitely not.
But more fans. It'll bring more fans into hockey. And
I have not seen it, but I've heard a ton about it, and I listened to a bunch of shows where like it's creeping in. And so when a TV show or a movie or a sporting event creeps into like my like tech podcasts and like my politics podcast, that's when I know it's bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So
having a moment.
There's an obsession among many with that show book. Yeah, that's what I heard. They're putting the show on TV in like nightclubs. Like the young people love this stuff, and I think it's great. I think it's great for our society to, progress a little bit on this issue. So,
but have we really reached the point in human history where we're going out to nightclubs just to watch TV? Like it all just feels very backward.
No. I'm imagining like a rowdy, like upbeat nightclub where it's just on. Like you're not going to watch it. It's just they're putting it on as like background noise or whatever. Lipstick Lounge did showings. I mean that makes sense. By the way, the back of Lipstick Lounge, which is called Chapstick, I believe, is a sports bar. Sponsor of my daughter's soccer club. So we love the Lipstick Lounge, folks. No, I mean like imagine going to like a hipster bar in East Nashville where they're just playing like a black and white film with no sound from like the 60s. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to watch the film. You just want it for like, you feel cool because it's like ambiance, you know? I think that's what's happening is like this TV show has turned into like it's like a cool thing that's on in the background and everyone can just like watch it while they're hanging out. Like, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Went to Chapstick to watch the Titans game this weekend. There you go. Bars are doing watch parties of this. That's fascinating.
That I did know. Watch party is different than nightclub. That's what I just wanted to.
I will not admit to this, but Friday nights at Mickey's throwing darts, that's pretty regular. That's a pretty regular thing. So you can check that out. I just stand at the pole watching SportsCenter while my wife jams out to 90s music at Miranda's. Yeah, there you go. I can't do the downtown. I can't do is Miranda's downtown? I assume that's a downtown bar. I don't know. If you do not want to go downtown or to any of those places we just mentioned, no free shouts. You can always go to Sinker's Beverages and have a cocktail at your house by going to Sinker's Beverages and purchasing that delicious non-alcoholic booze or just regular booze and bring it on home and have a safe cocktail in the privacy of your own home responsibly. Because if you are going to drive, don't be drinking. If you're going to drink is what I should have said, Emma. If you're going to drink, make sure you have Sinkers deliver the booze on Uber Eats directly to your house or to your watch party. I don't know if you could deliver booze to Broadway. I don't know if that's a thing you can do.
No, I think that the commenters are saying that Miranda's is referring to Miranda Lambert's, which I didn't pick up on at first. But yes, that is.
Oh, wow. You are a Carolina, Pennsylvania person. You just don't. You hear the word Miranda, you don't think that Miranda.
I thought it was a bar called Miranda's, and I was like, where's Miranda?
Some hipster bar in Silver
Yeah,
Park?
I thought it was some hipster bar in East Nashville. I'm like, I don't know. But then I realized it was, Miranda Lambert. Now I get it.
What's the next most famous Miranda? Speaking of HBO. God, I'm such an old nerd. All right. I think that's it for us. Nate and Houston and P. Houston and it looks like Being Jennifer. Great name there. Josh. All you guys in the comments, do appreciate all of you guys as well. Brandon and Logan, etc. So thanks for hanging out with us. We do appreciate you guys. 4 big games before we are on next week. I think all of them at home, right? You got the Islanders, the Blackhawks on Saturday, doubleheader the back-to-back on Sunday with Washington, and then Edmonton on Tuesday. We'll see where this team is next week. We'll find out if they're 3 points out of the playoff spot is still dangerously, tantalizingly close to the playoffs for Barry Trotz. I know that for a fact. All right. Otherwise, follow Emma everywhere on the internet. You can follow her on the socials. You can read her work all over the place. You can listen to her. And we do appreciate all you guys subscribing on the podcast feed of choice and on YouTube. So make sure you share the product, rate, review, subscribe, all that great stuff. For Emma and Braden, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. We will talk to you next time.